So, gaming is in a very weird spot right now, and I'm a little worried for it. Um, it's very much kind of telling when the usual trend of games and game consoles used to get cheaper as time went on, but in reality, they're just getting more and more expensive as the more the year goes on and the more stuff happens. And while I understand some of them, and generally the prices of games increasing due to developmental costs or developers kind of seeing more value in their game than what is normally priced. There is a point where we kind of have to stop and wonder, why are we letting this happen for some games that don't deserve it. Now, that isn't to say that these games are inherently bad, but it's not also to say that these games are inherently good either. I think a good example of this is looking at most modern single player games right now. I'm going to be mainly focusing on single player games. Um, Kind of sitting around either the like $50 to $70 mark, with some exceptions here and there. Um, and yet you get a game that, while it is very good, has issues with either graphical issues or progression related issues or just general problems that aren't really defendable by any means. Whether that's, again, more graphical related issues, progression or soft locking related issues, or something that I've noticed a lot more recently, just an enjoyment issue. Because I want to look at some examples of this, um, both on both sides of the good and bad. Good example of a game that I think did very well given the weirder price point is Doom the Dark Ages. Now, there's some slight bias here because Xbox exclusive. I play mostly Xbox stuff, but I'll talk about other games that I personally don't have much stake in um, at all. So we'll talk about that. The standard version of Doom the Dark Ages, no premium, as is $70. If you own Game Pass, it's $56. Obviously, premium is $100. That's just basically the access to DLC as well as some extra cosmetics. Nothing super out there, different, you know. Um, and then you get a very complete and well-made game that, up until basically recently, only had a few minor progression-related issues and achievement-related issues. But other than that, was beatable and completable. Some things even got made easier. Some things got made harder on harder difficulties. And the audio fixes that have happened have been good and stuff like that. But very much a very solid experience. But if we look at another single player game that came out that I think did even better, is something like Silksong, or Hollow Knight Silksong. Um, Kind of pseudo shadow dropped in the sense of, we had known that it was going to be coming out this year, or it was announced that it was going to be coming out this year, despite the fact that it was also said to be coming out, I think, 2023. I think they said initially during the Xbox Game Showcase a couple years ago, and it never happened. Um, so very much kind of getting the confirmation that, hey, not only is it coming out this year, it's coming out in 2 weeks, and it is probably one of the best games of the year so far, and probably might even win Game of the Year. That game's $20, and I stand by the fact that despite being a Game Pass owner, I might still get Hollow Knight and Silksong, if for whatever reason they get removed off Game Pass. Personally, I will probably still purchase them on their own because I think they are worth the money. And I haven't played Silksong personally, but from everything I'm hearing, story-wise and gameplay-wise, it's very, very good. It basically holds up to the original the first game very well, and does very, very well with the original being intact. But looking at some more downtrodden examples, of games that didn't do very well that released that are single player. Um, and these aren't inherently going to be necessarily at faults of the developers, but more or less just kind of the fact that I really haven't heard much about them. So these are not attacks on the developers at all. I want to basically make that very clear. Um, but I think a good example of it is stuff like Assassin's Creed Mirage, or any modern Assassin's Creed game, actually, for that matter. Dragon Age The Veilguard, which I actually have interest in playing. I'm not going to say 100% that I will play it, but I have interest in playing it. Hell, other games I can think of off the top of my head that kind of fell into this kind of weird, this game isn't good, but it's not bad either. So off the top of my head, like Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, I really haven't heard much else other than the first, basically the beginning of the year when it first came out. I haven't heard much else since then. Then you look at stuff like other single player games that have come out recently. Excuse me, I'm burping still a little bit from food that I've been eating. But like, I guess other more indie examples, you have Blueprints, you have Balatro, doing very, very well, still being talked about at least to some degree. But then you have other games, I'm trying to think of games off the top of my head. Indiana Jones, I feel like didn't do very well despite it being kind of hyped up. Gears of War Reloaded, I think outside the multiplayer, I really haven't heard much people talking about it, even though it is a remake, so kind of don't count it. And then kind of looking at even more going down that pipeline, because I know I've been talking mostly about Xbox / multi-platform games that have been available on PlayStation and Switch. Let's talk about a couple Switch games that I feel like did well but aren't being talked about as positively. Or at least it's very divisive in the sense of how it's being talked about. Stuff like Donkey Kong Bonanza or Mario Kart World, which I know is multiplayer, but it's also single player, so it's weird. Just games like that, it feels like that gaming is going down a path of, I'm not going to say quality over quantity, but value over quality, I guess. Is trying to value the game at a certain price despite it not having the quality of a game that would be at that price normally. Now, obviously, Donkey Kong Bonanza, I've heard amazing things about it, that it's an amazing game, but it being priced $70 does kind of add the barrier of entry being kind of high already, on top of needing to own a Switch 2. Like, disregarding the Switch 2 requirement, that barrier of entry of $70 is a lot for some people. But then you look at a game like Expedition 33, and it's kind of crazy how good that game is, and it's only at $50. And I haven't personally finished it myself, but I know plenty of people who have. And for being a game that came out this year, that is under 50 gigabytes for under $50, 40 if you have Game Pass, by the way. It's still very much a, why are some of these indie developers or AA developers, I guess is the kind of way of putting it, with like Kepler Interactive and Claire Obscure Expedition 33, because they're former AAA developers working on a game that they wanted to make, but it's not necessarily an indie game, but it's not necessarily a AAA development studio. It's like kind of in the middle, so AA developer kind of way of putting it. I don't want to necessarily have that be an insult, but that's just kind of how I've interpreted the game as a whole. Which is something, again, it's not meant to be an insult. But again, it's like these games feel like they're meant to do one thing and be this amazing game that everyone wants to play and people are talking about, but then for one reason or another, no one's talking about it. No one's playing it. No one's really talking positively about it. I think a good example of it is like Dragon Age the Veilguard. I heard a lot of people getting very excited for it. I've heard a lot of people still talking positively about it, but also I've seen a lot of people kind of talking down about it, stuff like that. Obviously, I think I know why. I'm not going to get into specifics on that, but it's still like, why are some of these games feeling like that they're just being treated like garbage when in reality they're probably really, really good? Like FBC Firebreak is from the world of it's from Remedy Entertainment, so I think it's from the world, if I'm not mistaken, the world of Prey. I think. Haven't heard much people talking about that. Um, Again, like other games that are upcoming that I'm excited to see, and I'm worried are going to get the same problem of being overpriced but not having a promised that value being worth it. It's like stuff like GTA 6 or Gears or E Day or the next Halo title if that ever happens. If we get another Halo title, um, like whatever the next Jedi game. Like I'm personally gonna be playing the next Jedi game no matter what, but I know some people were felt kind of underwhelmed by that, by Survivor. But then I think other examples that come to mind as well that I think of are also I didn't know that was available on I didn't know that was available on that. But like other games I can think of that aren't remakes, because I want to try and remove remakes from this conversation because that's a weird, I'm gonna say gray area, but a very weird topic that I feel like doesn't apply. Metaphor Refantasio, um, amazing game that I've heard, from what I've heard, absolutely amazing. People absolutely love it. But then it's like Persona 4 Golden, Persona 3 Reload, also very good, and like but people's like normally talking about it. Then you look at other games that are coming out. Like again, you have, I guess if we want to lean more into the multiplayer side of things, you have Payday 2 getting a subscription based service. You have obviously a game like Power Wash Simulator 2 coming out soon, which feels just kind of weird given the fact that we already have Power Wash Simulator 1. But I guess Power Wash Simulator 2 is just what 1 wanted to be and couldn't for whatever reason. Obviously, the new Skate um, coming out soon ish. Um, Obviously, another game that I've already talked about before on the channel, Starfield being a massive letdown, I guess the easy way of putting it, because it's a fun game on paper, but just such a letdown. Um, and usually all the other games that like we could have had sequels to or more content for, like Evil Within, we could have had an Evil Within 3, but that studio got shuttered. The Perfect Dark game that was going to be made got canceled. Like all of these games that I feel like could be good or were going to be good just kind of fall flat in their face when you consider the fact that all these companies are just kind of putting the value of the game over the actual quality of the game. Like, the fact that we have more games that are kind of going down the route of either roguelike or um, kind of just the fact that we're having more games do roguelike or even battle pass related stuff kind of is telling. Um, Especially when Nintendo's starting to hit that niche with Splatoon 3 having the battle passes, which I do like, and I like the way it's handled, but it's still not necessarily amazing. But then also with games starting to branch off of their exclusivity, with their, whether that's Final Fantasy VII or some of the Hoyoverse games, like Zenless Zone Zero um, or Genshin Impact or other exclusives that I can think of just off the top of my head, like God, I actually can't think of anything off the top of my head currently. Baldur's Gate 3, I guess another example. Like there's all these games that are very good that could be taken advantage of having these amazing games be priced at this same value, but then you look at the games that are being priced at full price game value and they're not good at all. That's what's kind of sad. Is it feels like you're not getting your money's worth out of it. That's what makes me worried for the future of games right now in general, is not necessarily the lack of the lack of value, but the lack of quality given the value. So, example being like just tossing a game out there that I can think of off the top of my head. Um, like not to say Final Fantasy 7, but like a game like Final Fantasy 7 Remake, where if it were releasing on all platforms at the same time, actually, no, it's a bad example because again, it's a remake. Um, let's say, just as a better example, oh, that's kind of fun that they changed the icon for that. I'm just trying to think of something off the top of my head that just works out. But like looking at games like Battlefield 6, let's just say that. Is it going to be worth the money for a lot of people to play Battlefield 6 and spend money on Battlefield 6 and then have it be the long-term value that they want from that game? Or are they going to feel like they're going to have buyer's remorse and they didn't, and they wish they didn't buy it, you know? That's, I think, something that I feel like a lot of Sony players are kind of forgetting, is that it's not the fact that you hate a game that's coming out on a different platform, or the fact that a game that was previously exclusive to your platform is now coming out on another platform. It's the fact that you feel like you didn't get your values worth out of the console you bought. Same thing can be said for the Switch 2. Same thing can be said for the Series X. The one argument I can at least say for the Series X is that at least you have Game Pass, and you have all the benefits of Game Pass, so again, slight bias there. I won't deny that, but still, at least I can kind of consider. At least I can kind of think about the fact that, hey, there is at least something here to give you the value you paid for. Like on the Switch, right? You have, obviously Switch 2, you have all the games that are coming out. You have Pokemon Legends CA, Metroid Prime 4, Age of Imprisonment. Obviously you have Donkey Kong Bonanza that's already out. You have Mario Kart World that's already out. You have all these other upcoming games coming out. You have Cyberpunk 2077, that's a third party. You have all these other games that are previously on Switch 1 running better on Switch 2, just inherently, whether they got an update or not, like Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield, BDSP, Splatoon 3, Super Smash Brothers. I think Splatoon 2 even just to some degree. But like, you get the idea, right? All these games are... Some of them feel like you're getting your values worth out of it, others you're not. And I think that's a very scary sign as somebody who likes to just play games for fun. Is if I'm playing a game and I'm not getting a perceived value out of that game, I think that's not necessarily anything to do with how the game is being made. I think it's how it's being priced. Now, that's not to say every single game that's very, very good should be priced cheaply. No, I don't think that's the case. I'm just saying that with the prices of games increasing more and more every day, it's slowly becoming not worth it to even consider getting these games, because they're either going to be too low quality, in the sense of they're either going to be like too low quality for this, in the sense of they're not going to have anything really going for them in terms of like the value perceived. So like, example just kind of being like, if you're spending money on a game and it's $60, but it's like a single player experience that's like barely finished or has a lot of issues, then like, why even bother, you know? But if you're spending money like $40 on something and you're getting like hours and hours and hours of content, whether that's single player or otherwise, I think at least then you have some perceived value, you know? That isn't, again, to say specifically that, like, a game priced at $60 and a game priced at $40 can't be good, right? And it's not like one can be good and other's bad, right? That's not necessarily the case. A game that's free could be better than a game that's paid, and a game that's paid could be a game that's better than one that's free. Example I think of is, like, Helldivers 2. I've been enjoying the absolute hell out of Helldivers 2, not only because it's a game that was recently put on Xbox, and I had my fiance thankfully get it for me, but I've always had interest in Helldivers 2, even as a PlayStation exclusive, and it was one of the main reasons I even considered wanting to get a PlayStation, was Helldivers 2. And I have been enjoying the hell out of it, and I absolutely think I've gotten my value's worth out of it, especially given the fact that it was a gift. So, effectively free, mind you, but still. Um, the fact that I've gotten my time spent and the value from it and made it's been worth it has been very nice. Like I have, according to these Xboxes, also obviously in game time or in application time, I have 2 days and 3 hours played on the game, and I've owned it since. Let's see. I have a screenshot here. I can look to give myself a vague idea of how long I've owned the game, just to give myself a vague idea. Um, I've owned the game for like 22 days, so 3 weeks roughly. And I feel like I've gotten more value and more time enjoyment out of Helldivers 2 than I did out of a purchase of, like... I'm trying to think of something specific. Like, out of I did for a purchase of, like, a game on Xbox that I spent cheap money on. Like, I'm trying to think of a really good example. I don't want to say Robocop because I haven't finished it yet, but, like, Danganronpa, I think is a good example of that. Which is to say I haven't been enjoying because I haven't finished it yet, but it's kind of an example. Or, like, Sekiro. I haven't even launched Sekiro yet. And that's not because I don't want to, but it's just because it's like I'm worried about my enjoyment of the game being ruined, speaking by the fact that it's hard. I just think that's the part that sucks, is you can't know if you're going to get your values worth out of a game. Sorry about that, I have been greeted with a guest. They're basically going out and I'm watching the puppy. But yeah, it's like the value of games feels like it's diminishing. I guess the best way of just saying it is, like, it feels like there's not as many good games like Balatro out there anymore that are that price. I just launched it by accident. I wanted to just look at the price of the game. Like, Balatro is $15, right? Look at Balatro, it's $15. Look at a game like, I'm trying to think of other games off the top of my head. Look at a game like Phasmophobia, and it's like, I can't tell how much it is. Yeah, it's $20. So look at a game like Phasmophobia, it's $20. Look at a game like Repo, it's $8 or $20, I think, as well. The other company, $20. All these games feel like they have endless amounts of, like, content and value, and they're priced at dirt cheap stuff. Right? And it's weird. Because why are we at this point where games that are $20, $30, $40 getting more value and enjoyment when games that are $60 feel like you're wasting your money, right? And that's what has me worried about the future of video games as a whole. Whether you're a Sony player, Xbox player, Switch player, excuse me, or PC player. Or you're like the 8% of people who have a Steam Deck as well. Or you're or somebody who's going to be using an Xbox Ally, or what have you. Gaming's getting scary. Like Borderlands 4, I think I've been hearing a lot of good, but I'm also hearing a lot of bad on the performance side of things. Like Elden Ring on Switch 2 looks atrocious and embarrassing, honestly, for a development company like FromSoft, given the fact that obviously we know that it's not being made in-house at FromSoft, but still, it feels semi-embarrassing. And then you look at other games like Siege that had this huge update and then just kind of tanked immediately. Obviously, you have your mainstays that are always going to be around there, like Fortnite, yeah, Minecraft. I think Terraria is always kind of popping on my feed every so often. Monster Hunter, I feel like it's been up and down all over the place. Final Fantasy 14's everywhere. I see it all the time. Even I've started playing it a little bit here and there. And it's like, these games feel like they're just becoming less and less worth it, you know? And it sucks. Because I feel like it shouldn't be. Because you could get serious value out of these games, but you just can't because you're just spending so much money. And it's just kind of sad, really, that we're at this point. But, yeah. That being said, I'm going to basically leave off this video here. Because I really don't have much else to say. There's like, I just want games to be good and be fun. Um, and I just hope that they continue to be fun. But yeah. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to see more videos like this one, be sure to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys next video or live stream or whatever I said to make. Everybody, stay safe. And I will see you guys next time. Everybody, stay safe.